Topuria, want to take my belts. I'm ready. Who is gonna be next? Let's do this, and I will make it easy.
Islam Makhachev just looked Ilia Topuria straight in the eye and made a statement nobody expected. He said he'd fight him for absolutely nothing. No pay-per-view cut, no championship payday, not even a single dollar. Those were the words that instantly sent fans into a frenzy. And what makes the moment even more explosive is the timing. It comes after the fighter many expected to dominate was shockingly stopped by Justin Gaethje on one of the biggest stages the UFC has ever seen, leaving the entire division surrounded by questions and rising tension.
How are you feeling? He says he can't see it. Everybody stop this. Look at me.
Then, before the shock had even settled, he reportedly jumped onto social media and appeared to take aim at Topuria while the aftermath of the fight was still unfolding. That single moment changed how many fans viewed this entire situation. This was no longer a routine call-out or the usual promotional back and forth before a major event. According to many observers, the tension had already been simmering for months, fueled by public accusations, talk of a reported $20 million payday, a White House event that never materialized, and a devastating knockout that Makhachev seemed to acknowledge online, while Topuria was still recovering backstage. Now the rivalry appears to have crossed another line. One champion is openly suggesting that money no longer matters, only the fight itself. But to understand why emotions have reached this level, you have to follow every chapter that led here. What Makhachev reportedly said after Topuria renewed his challenge following the Justin Gaethje defeat has only added another layer to one of the UFC's most talked about rivalries. Before we get to the social media exchanges, the collapsed White House plans, and the posts that ignited another wave of reactions, we need to go back to where everything truly began. Because despite what many fans assume, this feud did not start when the White House matchup disappeared. It actually traces back much earlier, to a moment that many believe Topuria has never fully moved past. As 2025 approached, Islam Makhachev sat comfortably at the top of the lightweight division. He had already defeated Alexander Volkanovski twice, finished Charles Oliveira, and spent nearly 2 years recognized by many as the pound-for-pound king of the sport. Then came the decision almost nobody saw coming. Makhachev walked away from the lightweight championship and revealed he was moving up to welterweight, determined to pursue a second world title and reshape his legacy.
Islam Makhachev is going to move up to the welterweight division to face Jax Della Maddalena.
The move itself was already massive news, but that was not what truly ignited the controversy. The moment that changed everything came from what Makhachev reportedly said about Topuria before leaving the lightweight division. He publicly argued that Topuria had not yet accomplished enough at 155 pounds to earn an immediate championship opportunity. In his view, capturing the featherweight title and moving up was not enough. If Topuria won a shot at the lightweight crown, he first needed to prove he belonged among the division's elite. To many listeners, the message was unmistakable. Makhachev was drawing a line and making it clear he did not believe Topuria had reached his level. For a fighter who was unbeaten in 17 professional bouts, had finished Alexander Volkanovski, defeated Max Holloway, submitted Charles Oliveira, and already established himself as a champion across multiple divisions, those remarks landed with unusual force. It was more than criticism. It sounded like a public ranking of status, a reminder from a man sitting at the top that the challenger below still had further to climb. What made the comments even more memorable was how casually they were delivered. There was no heated face-off, no dramatic press conference, just matter-of-fact remarks that many felt carried even greater impact because of how effortless they seemed. Topuria wasted little time responding. Through social media and later interviews, he argued that the fight fans truly wanted was the one that never happened. He suggested Makhachev's move to welterweight looked less like coincidence and more like a decision that conveniently avoided the most dangerous matchup available at lightweight. He repeatedly claimed the stylistic challenge was one Makhachev preferred not to face and promised he would continue answering those comments whenever the opportunity presented itself. Every interview, every appearance, and every public statement became another opportunity to remind people that, in his view, the rivalry was far from finished. Looking back, many fans now point to that exchange as the real beginning of the feud. It was never just about championship negotiations, money, or promotional drama. It began with one champion publicly questioning another's place in the division. That single statement became the spark that eventually grew into something much bigger. Nearly every interview, social media jab, sarcastic reaction, and viral posts that followed seemed connected to that original moment, a comment that may have sounded routine at the time, but ultimately reshaped the relationship between both fighters. As late 2025 unfolded, the conflict only intensified. Makhachev moved to welterweight and captured a second world title after defeating Jack Della Maddalena, while Topuria claimed the lightweight championship at UFC 317 and immediately renewed his challenge with even greater determination than before. Every interview became another opportunity for Topuria to repeat the same message. No matter the platform or the question, he insisted there was only one opponent that truly mattered. According to him, conquering lightweight and then moving up to challenge Makhachev at welterweight would not simply earn him a second title in another division. It would give him a chance to become the UFC's first ever three-division champion. In his eyes, every victory was another step toward that single destination. Every performance inside the octagon pointed back to one name, and he made sure nobody forgot it. Makhachev answered in a completely different way. Rather than matching the emotion, he repeatedly questioned one specific area of Topuria's game, his grappling. Across multiple interviews, he suggested Topuria's skills on the ground were nowhere near the level needed to compete with someone built around elite wrestling and control. He predicted that if they ever fought, the contest would eventually end on the canvas, where striking advantages would no longer matter. As fans and analysts echoed similar predictions online, Makhachev largely stayed quiet, allowing the conversation to grow without adding much fuel himself. Then, in early 2026, another viral moment pushed the rivalry even further. A social media post predicting Makhachev would submit Topuria spread rapidly across the MMA community. Topuria dismissed the comparison outright, calling the narrative disrespectful. He doubled down on his belief that the matchup would end with a knockout in his favor and once again challenged Makhachev to make the fight official. That exchange perfectly captured the contrast that had defined this rivalry from the beginning. Makhachev remained measured, confident, and focused on adding victories to his resume, while Topuria continued publicly demanding the fight and reminding fans that Makhachev had left lightweight before facing the opponent many believed posed his greatest challenge. Then everything shifted toward what many expected to become one of the biggest events in UFC history. Plans reportedly centered around UFC Freedom 250 on June 14, 2026, with the South Lawn of the White House discussed as the venue, an unprecedented setting for a championship fight. According to widespread reports within the sport, Makhachev and Topuria were expected to headline the card in a champion versus champion showdown, many compared to the anticipation surrounding Georges St-Pierre and BJ Penn years earlier. But before anything became official, the entire plan unraveled, and both camps offered very different versions of what happened. Makhachev addressed the situation first. He claimed he accepted the proposed fight as soon as it was presented, saying there were no lengthy negotiations or financial demands from his side. According to his account, he was later informed by his manager that the matchup had fallen apart because Topuria's team had reportedly requested a $20 million purse that the UFC was unwilling to approve. That claim instantly became one of the defining turning points in the rivalry. More than the online exchanges or the sarcastic reactions, this was the moment that changed how many people viewed the conflict. The turning point wasn't simply another exchange online. It was the reported $20 million purse dispute, because that allegation changed the way many fans interpreted everything that followed. Suddenly, every message Makhachev posted, every sarcastic remark, and every public response seemed to carry the confidence of someone who insisted he had accepted the fight immediately while claiming the deal collapsed on the other side. Whether that version was accurate or not, it quickly became one of the biggest talking points surrounding the rivalry. Topuria answered with a completely different account. In a post on X, he suggested Makhachev was hiding behind an injury and claimed his team had been offered a choice between Islam and Justin Gaethje and that they had chosen Makhachev. His manager echoed that position publicly before adding another personal jab aimed at Ali Abdelaziz. In a post that quickly spread across MMA circles, he joked, "I've lost 40 pounds. Why is Ali still calling me fat?" It was another reminder that this rivalry had moved well beyond championship belts and into something deeply personal. Makhachev refused to leave those claims unanswered. On April 7, 2026, he published what many considered his strongest response of the entire feud. He wrote that he was tired of what he described as fabricated stories coming from Topuria's camp. According to Makhachev, he accepted the proposed White House fight as soon as he received the call. He then claimed that the following day he was informed Topuria's side had requested an unrealistic purse, the UFC declined those terms, and the fight fell apart. He ended by accusing Topuria of constantly changing his story, before adding one final challenge directed at both Topuria and his manager: "Forget the money, we can settle this for free." That final line changed the tone completely. The reigning welterweight champion, and one of the sport's biggest stars, was publicly arguing that money no longer mattered. According to his version of events, the only obstacle left was whether Topuria was willing to sign. At that point, the rivalry no longer sounded like ordinary promotion. It felt like two champions trying to convince the world that the other man was responsible for preventing the fight from happening. Then came June 14th. Topuria stepped into the White House event against Justin Gaethje, a night Makhachev watched from the outside. As the fight reached the later rounds, the momentum shifted dramatically, and Topuria's corner ultimately decided to stop the contest. Within moments of the finish, Makhachev reacted on social media. He congratulated Gaethje, praised his performance, wrote that there are levels to this game, and included another remark that many fans interpreted as a direct shot at Topuria's self-created nickname. When viewed alongside everything that had happened over the previous year, the accusations, the failed negotiations, the public challenges, and the constant claims that Makhachev had avoided him, the post landed with even greater force and pushed the rivalry into an entirely new chapter. More than a year of press conference exchanges. More than a year of interviews, social media posts, and public challenges. For months, Topuria pushed the narrative that Makhachev had left lightweight because he wanted no part of that matchup. Then came the night many believed would validate everything he had been saying. Under the brightest spotlight the sport had ever prepared, with history seemingly within reach, the fight was stopped by his own corner in the 4th round. While the arena processed what had happened, Makhachev was already posting online, sharing laughing emojis and remarks that many fans interpreted as another direct jab at Topuria's self-proclaimed nickname. Now look at the numbers behind the rivalry. Makhachev has put together one of the longest winning streaks in modern MMA, collecting 16 consecutive victories and building an overall record of 28 wins. His lone defeat came more than a decade ago against Adriano Martins, a result that many now view as little more than an early chapter in an otherwise dominant career. Since then, he has defeated Alexander Volkanovski twice, submitted Charles Oliveira, and captured a second championship by defeating Jack Della Maddalena in his welterweight debut. Every victory has added another layer to a resume that makes a future clash with Topuria feel less like a possibility and more like unfinished business waiting for the right moment. For now, the super fight remains on hold rather than gone. Makhachev is scheduled to defend his welterweight title against Ian Machado Gary at UFC 330, keeping his immediate focus elsewhere. But if Topuria continues winning, many observers believe a collision between the two champions in 2027 becomes increasingly difficult to avoid. Both men have publicly expressed interest in the matchup, and the tension between them has only intensified since Makhachev vacated the lightweight title without ever sharing the octagon with the opponent many fans wanted to see him face. If that fight finally becomes reality, it will carry far more than championship stakes. It will bring with it every accusation, every interview, every disputed version of events, every social media exchange, every reported negotiation, every laughing emoji, and every statement about fighting for free. Everything that has built this rivalry will eventually have to be answered where words no longer matter, inside the cage. So, which moment changed this rivalry the most in your opinion? A. Was it when Makhachev publicly argued that Topuria had not yet earned a lightweight title shot, creating the first crack in their relationship and motivating Topuria to spend the next year trying to prove him wrong? B. Or was it the reported White House negotiations where Makhachev claimed Topuria's side asked for a $20 million purse before declaring he would fight for free, turning the entire debate into a battle over who really wanted the matchup? C. Or was it the immediate social media reaction after Topuria's loss, when Makhachev posted laughing emojis and comments many fans viewed as mocking Topuria's nickname just moments after the fight was stopped? Share your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of the biggest rivalries in combat sports.